Okay. Well, I don't know if you guys had the opportunity to check your email before class started, but about an hour and a half ago, I sent out some grade reports, maybe even 2 hours ago. Uh, the grade reports that I sent are it's basically a list of what is in your grade book. Okay, so it's a breakdown of what you've completed. It's also a breakdown of anything that is missing by chance. Um, if you guys remember, I was telling you the last time we met, there has actually been occasions where there's been errors in Blackboard. You guys submit the assignment, you actually even get the receipt of the submission, but there's nothing in there for me to grade. So looking over the grade reports is a great way for us to find any of those types of errors. Okay, so please, at least after class today, go check that email and look through uh, to see if there's anything that you guys are missing. If you guys were missing any assignments, I highlighted them. So you can still turn them in. They'll be considered late, but some points are better than no points. So I would much rather you get them in. And then I also, at the top of the grade report, is your current grade. Okay, so look for those highlighted areas on your grade report. And then after you guys look through them, if you have any questions, please make sure that you contact me and let me know. Already this semester, there's been a couple of really weird things that have happened in Blackboard. So I've had in more than one class where one student's work is somehow like completely like corrupted, like the file has all these weird characters and everything all over the place. So please make sure you guys take a look at that, okay? All right. Well, the first thing that I want to do, we are going to discuss our pronouns a little bit more. We only really had the opportunity to look at the website that's posted there for your discussion board. We only had an opportunity to just kind of glance through it. You guys, if you remember, we did the Nearpod and you posted types of pronouns, what they do, things like that. The quiz that was located in the discussion board, I know can be tricky because depending on the type of pronoun that you use, it changes the verb in the sentence. So it completely changes everything. So if you are using the wrong pronoun, your sentence is wrong. So normally those are the questions that you guys end up posting on the discussion board. You can't figure out, okay, this sounds right to me. And here's the very unfortunate fact. The fact is that conversational English and proper English are two very different things. Okay, so our conversational English is very relaxed, slang, whatever. But for the most part, it's very incorrect. So that's why when we look over those sentences, they sound right to us because that's the way we speak, but that's actually not the proper way to write. Okay, so I have a video I want to start us out with. I believe I have in this class showed you a couple of Schmoop videos already. So I think we have now determined that I really, really love the people at Schmoop. They share my sense of humor. But they break down how certain pronouns affect a sentence, okay? Whether they're subjects or objects, and then what that does to the verb in the sentence. So I'd like us to watch this video and then maybe discuss a little bit. That way, if you guys have questions, maybe the video will even answer some of the questions that you posted to the pronoun discussion board, okay? So let me get rid of my face. Let's go into Blackboard, okay? So the first place I'm going to take us to this afternoon is right here into the Learning Plans and Sources tab, okay? We're going to scroll down. We're actually going to come into Learning Plan 1. And all this has all of our resources, you know, our sentences, our fixes, grammar. Oh my goodness, it has all of that. Okay. Our punctuation. All right. I'm going to keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Okay. So at the very, very bottom, there is this video titled Subject and Object Pronouns by Schmoop. Okay. I want you guys to watch it, listen closely, see, you know, in the midst of the humor that they use, really look at the pronouns that they're using and how they affect the sentence. Feel free to take notes if you want to. Otherwise, do know that the video is here for you guys to reflect back on if you would like to, okay? Okay, so let's open it up, test our sound, make sure everybody can hear. Okay.
We speak student.
All right, so that was just really quick. Take to the chat box. Let me know. Could you guys hear and see okay? Okay, I'm getting some thumbs ups and some comments. Perfect. All right, so let me put it in full screen. If at any point in time things go wonky, make sure you go right to the chat box because I still can see the chat box. I do have the closed captioning on. We all know that sometimes it's very accurate and sometimes it is not accurate at all. So let me fix my settings. All right, so this is Subject and Object Pronouns by Schmoop.
Subject plus object pronouns, a la Schmoop. Tall Jim and Joan will take Bella and Della to see Bert and Stinky Jim. Wow, that's a lot of names to sort through. Let's clean up this sentence just a bit. And then maybe we'll clean up Stinky Jim. They will take them to see Bert and Stinky Jim. In grammar, pronouns like they and them can be used to stand in for nouns. However, some pronouns only work as subjects while other pronouns only work as objects. In a sentence, a subject performs an action, while the action in a sentence happens to an object. Trying to make an object pronoun the subject of a sentence or a subject pronoun the object of a sentence is like trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. So let's look at some examples of pronoun placement gone terribly awry. Let's say we have the sentence, Kim went to the grocery store to stock up on candy canes. Well, Kim is an object pronoun. Duh. It can't be the subject of our sentence. So let's change things up a bit. He went to the grocery store to stock up on candy canes. He is a subject pronoun, so it fits perfectly into our example because that's where the subject is living. Here's another sentence. Them took they cow tipping. Looks like someone got their pronouns switched. It might have been that poor old startled cow. As them is an object pronoun and they is a subject pronoun, this sentence should read, they took them cow tipping. Really shouldn't do that. PETA will be all over you. For example, we know that subject pronouns are completely different from object pronouns. Subject pronouns include the words I, he, she, they, and we. Object pronouns include the words me, him, her, them, and us. However, there's one word that can serve as either a subject pronoun or an object pronoun. That's the word you. Say we have the sentence, you went for a swim in the very cold ocean. Well, here the word you is a subject pronoun. But what if we have this sentence? Brad forced you to swim in the very cold ocean. This time the you is an object pronoun. So the other amazing thing about the word you is that it can be singular, as we saw in our two previous examples, or plural. Well, what does this mean? You can stand in for one person, or many people. Say a tour guide is leading her group of 20 tourists around Pamplona, and she tells them, watch out, you don't want to get run over by a bull. In this example, the you isn't just a subject pronoun, it's a plural subject pronoun. Like, all of you don't want to get run over by a bull. So say our tour guide is driving her horde through Barcelona, and she tells them, now I'll show you the part of town where the pickpockets live. In this example, the you isn't just an object pronoun, it's a plural object pronoun. Well, we've been over the basics of subject and object pronouns, but what happens when we have more than one person as the subject or object of a sentence? Well, what happens is that people get confused and switch their pronouns around. Say we have the sentence, Lisa and me ate an entire gallon of chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream. Me doesn't belong as a subject of this sentence. It's an object pronoun. Instead, our sentence should read, Lisa and I ate an entire gallon of chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream. The grammar in our example is now correct, even if the decision to pack away so many calories was. Or say we have the sentence, Grandma gave she and Tom ugly sweaters for their birthdays. While she is a subject pronoun, it doesn't belong as an object of the sentence. Our sentence should read, Grandma gave her and Tom ugly sweaters for their birthdays. Got it? Yay, correct grammar. Ooh, poor gift choice. Just because a sentence has two people as subjects or two people as objects doesn't mean we should get so turned around that we mix up our pronouns. To keep poor grammar at bay, just remember this tip. When faced with a sentence with multiple subjects or objects, narrow the subjects or objects down to one in order to select the correct subject pronoun or object pronoun. Got it? So, for example, say we have the sentence, John and I/me went to the rave last night. If John's presence scrambles the brain, just kick him out of the statement for a moment. This leaves us with, I/me went to the rave last night. I is a subject pronoun, so that's the pronoun we want in this sentence instead of the object pronoun me. Like me went to rave last night is like a caveman statement, right? So the sentence in its entirety should read, John and I went to the rave last night. There's one last thing we need to know about subjects and object pronouns. Whenever a pronoun is part of a prepositional phrase, we always use an object pronoun, never a subject pronoun. Just to review, prepositions normally describe relationships or show possession, and some examples of prepositions include the words between, above, including, and over. So say we have the sentence, we'll keep this secret between you and me. Well, our prepositional phrase in this example is between you and me are object pronouns. We would never say, we'll keep this secret between you and I, because I is a subject pronoun, not an object pronoun. Got it? Or say we have the sentence, Bill was so angry he threw the lamp at her. Well, here, at her is our prepositional phrase, and we use her because it's an object pronoun. We would never say, Bill was so angry he threw the lamp at she, because she is a subject pronoun, and you shouldn't throw lamps at people. There may be a lot of rules about subjects and object pronouns, but the most important thing to remember is that some pronouns only work as subjects while other pronouns only work as objects, and never the twain shall meet.
Okay, sorry if you can hear me laugh when we go through that. So it's confusing, isn't it? It's very confusing. And the best advice I can give you guys is to take note of what pronouns are considered subject pronouns and what pronouns are considered object pronouns. And then also to keep in mind that you can be a subject pronoun or an object pronoun, plus it can be singular or plural. The other thing that I like, because this is the same thing that I usually suggest to you guys when you do get confused. So when you have a sentence and that sentence starts out with more than one subject, okay, it's very easy just to go ahead and narrow it down to one, make it singular, and then that lets you know which pronoun to choose. The choice between I and me is always seems to be the pronoun that we get hung up on. So big fat review is awesome, but let me take you back to, let's see here. Not there. All right, here. So don't know if you guys have a notebook next to you and you want to write these down, but this is a very good frame of reference. Okay, so we've got two little charts here. I just realized the one is only halfway. Okay, so we've got subject pronouns. So subject pronouns would be the subject of a sentence. So we have I, he, she, they, we. All of those pronouns can be used as subjects in a sentence, okay? And a subject in the sentence is like the main player. It's who is the star of the show, okay? And then our object pronouns would be me, him, her, them, and us. Okay, object pronouns, they're the poor souls that the action is being done unto, okay? And then, like we said, remember that you can serve in both places, okay? All right. You guys have any questions on that? Take to the chat box and let me know if you do. Okay, because I want you guys to try your hands at something here. Let me get out of here. And I'm going to show you. You may have noticed underneath the video here, there is an in-class activity. Okay, so I'm going to click on this. Hopefully you guys are all following along because you're going to need access to this document. So let me go back out just in case you don't know where I'm at. So go Learning Plans and Sources. Learning Plan 1, which is our grammar, punctuation, and mechanics. And you are going to scroll to the very, very, very bottom. Okay, and at the very, very bottom is this activity right here. So let me load it up. And you guys can load it up on your computers as well. So what I want you guys to do is to get out a piece of paper. It can be a scratch piece of paper, whatever you want to scribble on, because you're going to write your answers on some papers. Not right now, but make sure that you have that paper. So basically all this activity is it's got 3 sections to it. Okay, the first section is talking about pronouns as subjects. Okay, we just watched that video, so we know which pronouns we can use as subjects, right? So I want you guys, I'm going to end up putting you into 2 small groups. So that way, if one of you gets stumped on something, you guys can discuss it. So, help each other out. Turn on your mics, utilize your time together. So together decide which one is the correct pronoun to be used as a subject. Okay, so on your piece of paper, you would write number 1, and then you would have to choose between them and they. Okay, the second section is about making comparisons. So this is what trips most people up, is trying to figure out the comparison. So in the video when it was talking about prepositional phrases and how to figure out, from there what to do, that's what this section is all about. Okay, so again, on your paper, write the number, and then write whatever you think is the correct answer. Then the last one just contains some sentences. I really, in your groups, I really want you guys to discuss these sentences here, okay? What I want you to do is to look through the sentences and figure out where the errors are at, okay? Obviously, it's going to be errors within the pronouns, okay? So figure out where the error is and try, as a group, try to figure out how to fix it. It could be changing some wording around. It could be changing different words. Whatever you as a group think would be the best idea, okay? So does anybody have any questions? You guys, anybody need me to explain where to find this activity? Okay, so let me really quickly, while you guys are grabbing your paper and something to write with, excuse me, I will tell you where you are going to be in just a moment. Okay, so we just have 2 breakout sessions here. So the first group is just going to be Haley and Hunter. And then the second group is Richard, Stephanie, and Tatum. Okay. So as I said, once you get into your groups, turn on your mics. You don't have to turn on your cameras, but turn on your mics and discuss with each other. Utilize each other's knowledge in this. Okay. And let me see here. I'm looking at my time. Let's do I will give you guys 15 minutes because I want you to be able to kind of look through them and discuss. And I think what I'll do is I'll pop in your groups at about the 14-minute mark and see if you guys need more time, okay? So does anybody have any questions before you head into breakout groups? I want everybody to complete this on their own. So I realize you're in a group and you're going to discuss, but I want you to have your own copy of what your answers are, okay? Because we will be using them when we are done in this breakout session. So, no questions? All right then. So I will come check on you guys in about 14 minutes. Keep an eye on the clock in the breakout session. See you soon. Well, before I pop anything up on the screen, did you guys have any questions right off that you were just totally confused about? Otherwise, we are going to go through all of the answers to these pronoun questions. Okay. Let's see here. All right, so I see that some of you had a few. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to keep those in your mind because we're gonna take it one by one. We're gonna go through all of these. And so when we get to the particular questions or, pronoun questions that you had, I want you to put it in the chat box so then we can discuss it. Okay? So I gotta get over here. Let me share my screen with you guys so we can do a side-by-side of the activity and then with the answers. So okay, you guys should be seeing kind of a two document setup here on your screen. All right, let me get rid of my face so you're trying not to stream too many things. All right, so the first section that you guys had was pronouns as subjects. Okay, so let's look at this. All right, I'm gonna read through these first 10, and if any of the questions that you have are in regards to any of these first 10, I want you to go ahead and type them in the chat box while I'm going through these, okay? So the answers are over here on the left. I'm just going to read the sentences. So number 1 should be John and them went to the zoo. Number 2, which honestly, you know what? Hold on a second. I don't agree with that. Number 1 is questionable because I don't think I agree with that. This is what happens when you get activities from other schools. So let's come back to, whoops. Let's come back to this one. That would be email. Okay, so number 2, him and I are good friends. Okay, this is that comparison thing, which is always hard to grasp. Okay, so if we're comparing, then it would be him and me are good friends. Number 3, them and us went to the game yesterday. Again, we're combining here. All right. Let's see here. Mary and her went to. I'm just looking at these and I feel like they're wrong. Does anybody else feel like the answers that they're giving are wrong? Number 2 was off. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm just kind of looking at these right here. I'm making sure I'm not telling you wrong. Mary and you and me. So 5 would be dun, dun, dun. Because I'm sharing my screen still here. If we Yeah, well, and that's what I'm sorry, it's a one-sided conversation as I'm looking through your chats. Yeah, I'm looking at this and I feel like it's complete opposite of what it needs to be. So hang on here a second. Let's go back to this. All right. So here's what I want you guys to do. I'm going to unhighlight that. I am getting rid of this because I am disagreeing with almost all of them. So I want you guys to take to the chat box, okay? And we're going to answer them together. And then I'm going to have you guys ask any questions that you have. So for number 1, we have John and which pronoun did you guys choose? Because if we are thinking of, I love these charts here. Let me get rid of the closed captioning. We have the subject pronouns, we have the object pronouns, and then we also have the big fat review that reminds us, oops, the big fat review that reminds us that when we have that plural, a plural subject, it's always good to kind of whittle it down. So remember number 6 here? When faced with a sentence with multiple subjects or objects, narrow the subjects or objects down to one in order to select the correct subject pronoun or object pronoun. Okay? All right. So keeping that in mind, let's come back to our document. So here we have a plural subject. So if we got rid of John, let's just ignore John for a minute. Would it be them went to the zoo or they went to the zoo? Tell me in the chat box. And you can always do it privately if you're not brave enough. Okay, I'm getting some theys. Yes, so let's do they. Okay, because that makes sense, right? They went to the zoo. The zoo, not the zoon, the zoo. So number 1 would be John and they went to the zoo. Okay. So let's look at number 2. We have our plural subject again. So we're going to have to really, really look at this. Let's look at the first ones. All right. So, and this is a tricky one. So is it he and I are good friends or him and me are good friends? This one is going to be a little bit different because it's making a comparison here. What did you guys get in your groups? What did you think? Okay. I'm seeing some correct ones coming in here. I just want to make sure I'm looking at everybody's. All right. So the chart, are we referring to? Okay, let's come over here. Oh, I went too far off the past here. Let's get rid of Uncle Sam. There we go. So you're right here. So is it he and I or him and me? Give me your vote. Take to the chat box. He and I or him and me? Follow the chart from Schmoop. So if we go from the chart on Schmoop, we are looking for subjects, okay? We need our subjects. So what would it be? Look at our subject pronouns. Okay. So if we're looking at the chart, as I said, so it would be he, whoops, I can't highlight that, and I, okay? Because those are our subject pronouns. All right. And I'm not going to lie, this is very confusing. That's why we go through this together. Okay, so number 3, we have our options here. Let's flip back to the chart. Them, they, or us, we. So we need to figure out which ones are our choices. We're looking at subjects, right? So if it's supposed to be subjects, what should it be? Okay. See how they and we are here? Remember how I told you that conversational English is incorrect? Okay, but this is another good example. Take away they and. So just take away that. We would say we went to the game yesterday, right? We wouldn't say us went to the game yesterday. So that's when it's a little bit helpful to take away that other part of the subject, okay? All right, let's try one that maybe is a little less daunting because there's only one choice. So we've got Mary and would it be her or she were there with Anne? What do you guys think? Because it would be a subject. So what are our subject pronouns? But it always gets tricky because of our verbs there, right? This one will throw you off because of our verb. Okay. It should be she. Okay. Right now we have were because we have a plural subject, but if we take it singular, the singular verb would be was. So we would say she was there with Anne. All right. This is did you guys ever have to do sentence diagramming like in elementary or high school? Where they like totally took a sentence piece by piece. That's where sentence diagramming comes in handy, okay? All right, let's look number 5. You and what do you think? Do you think it's you and he or you or him? You and him. Remember to take one of out and test it. So would it be you and him? Okay, I'm getting a couple of different ones. Okay, he or him, which one is a subject pronoun? There he is right there. Okay, so let's highlight that. All right, we have a really, really long sentence in here. So let's just kind of go through it. So it's you and blank are on the same team. Oh, look at that. That's why that looked weird. Okay, you and blank are on the same team. Which one of those pronouns is a subject pronoun? I or me? I, very good. Oops. Okay. So now we got James. James and he or him will be here soon. So he or him, let's go back and look at our subject pronouns. Is he or him a subject pronoun? Ding, ding, ding. Very good. Okay. This one is another double up here. So we have either a we or us. So we or us, we look at our chart, we know that we is a subject pronoun, right? So let's go we, and we have to choose between them or they. Okay, this is where the chart comes in handy. So they. Are you seeing how these sentences are ones that you wouldn't ever really probably utter in an everyday conversation? Because we don't speak in proper English. Okay, the Allens and do you think it's we or us? I'm not going to flip back to the chart. Which one do you think it is? We or us? Very good, you guys. Now, it sounds funny, doesn't it? The Allens and we had a very narrow escape. But if we take the Allens out of the equation, we had a very narrow escape. Okay, so that's my biggest advice to you guys is to dissect your sentences, okay? So here we go. Let's look at this one. Do you remember between he and him? Which one is a subject pronoun? Think of the chart. Is he or him? Very good. He. And then which one of these, between me and I, which one is very good? Wow, you guys see you're coming in fast now. He and I. Okay, very good. Now, these ones do get confusing, okay? Because we're making comparisons. So, let's give these a shot. Let me see how you guys do here. So, number one is saying Tom is several inches taller than, what did you guys put? What did you think? Okay, I want to get answers from more than just one of you. So, somebody else, tell me what you thought. Okay, very good. Okay, what about number two? We retain more students than, what do you think? Okay, very good. Now, the comparisons would be object pronouns, okay? So that might help you if you're stumped on some of them. So Anne, because Anne is our subject, okay, Anne writes as well as him or he. Think of your object pronouns. Which one would it be? Very good, you guys. Okay, Jack has a larger car than, who would it be? Very good. Very, very good. It would be me, because remember, we are looking at the object, okay? Jack is the subject. Me is the object. All right, the dress fits you better than, which one of these can be used as an object pronoun? Okay, very good. Awesome. Okay, we're getting there, guys. We are not at home as much as they or them. Which one of those is an object pronoun? Very good. Okay, Dad has more patience than, which one of these is an object pronoun? Okay. All right. The younger child is not as talented as him or her. Not as talented as either of them, huh? Okay, so if we go back here, look at, we've got our object pronouns right there. So it would be him. Bobby thinks his parents like the baby more than, and actually we just kind of gave the answer right there, didn't we? That would be our object. Okay, so the question popped through is, why can't it be her? Okay, the younger child is not as talented as her. Well, let's go back over here. Well, I guess it could be both, couldn't it? So that's how we would fix that sentence. It would have to be him or her, or him and her. So you are right. It could be either or. Okay, it could be either or because they're both the object pronouns. Good call. All right. Although Charles has only lived here for a short time, he already has made more friends than, which one of these is an object pronoun? Okay, very good. Susan and John can't sing as well as, this one's a weird one. Always come back to the chart, okay? So according to the chart, okay, than us. Very good. And then Dr. Jones has a larger practice than, which one is an object pronoun? That's a tricky one too, isn't it? Because we're told that I can be a subject or an object, can't it? But normally when we are doing comparisons, we go, whoops, with me, okay? Normally with comparisons, it's me. Now, Usually at the front of the sentence, we do see I, but usually at the end of the sentences with comparisons, we use me. Okay. All right. Let's take a glance at some of these here. So let me know what you guys ended up with number 1. There can be more than one way to fix these sentences. What did you guys do for number 1? You can take to the chat box and let me know. It's a weird, awkward sentence, right? Tony, he plans to attend the nearest university. Do we need to have both Tony and he as our subject? No, it's like really weird, isn't it? So I'm just going to take our pronoun out. There's no need to have the pronoun in there, right? Okay. So what about this one? Most of we boys. What did you guys do? Did you add something? Did you take something away? Okay. Ooh, okay. I'm having some interesting variations here. So let me look at this. Okay. So we have a couple of options. We could say most of them, but we would take boys out. Most of them attend the meetings. Let me see. One of you put most of us attend the meetings. Okay. But having boys in there, it actually isn't necessary. You can take that out. Okay. What did you guys do for number 3? Did you add? Did you take away? Did you switch around? Oh, hey, I like that. Okay. So instead of just having it that way, we were nominated for office, right? Or would be another option. Okay. Those would be 2 correct options. What'd you guys do for number 4? We've got the team members. They are quite thrilled about their success. It's another one of those, it's almost like it's redundant. So what did you guys put in or take away for this one? Okay, somebody is saying they took out they. So the team members, oh, okay, yep, somebody else is saying it. So the team members are quite thrilled about their success. That's probably the easiest fix, right? Okay, them are my kind of people. Does that sound right? All right, very good. Our neighbors were nice enough to deliver the papers for me and Eddie. Did you guys do anything to this one? Okay, this was a tricky one. You guys have a good sense of humor. Okay, so if we look at this part is actually correct. So our neighbors were nice enough to deliver the papers for me and Eddie. Okay, now if it happened to say Eddie first, then we could put and I. Okay, we would have to flip that around. Okay, what'd you guys do to number 7? Us ladies are planning to defeat the men in our company sports this year. Think of our subject pronouns. Yep. Okay, we ladies are planning. Very good. Okay, so we have another one of those like redundant sentences. The kitten, it wouldn't harm anyone. What did you guys do to this one? Because there are a couple different options, right? So we can either take out it, Or we take out the kitten, right? Because both the kitten and it were referring to the same thing, so we didn't need both of them in there. Okay, what about number 9? Are them too large? Okay, very good. All right, last one. Them are the shoes to buy if you are looking for comfortable shoes. Okay, a few different options. So we could use those. We could use they, right? Either one of those would work. So good job. All right, deep breath here. Do you guys have questions still? Because it seems to me like you guys got these pretty well. I am going to actually take us into Blackboard, okay? All right. So here is what I want you guys to do. I'm going to have you guys do one more thing for me, and then I'm going to let you go on break. What I want you to do is I want you to head over to the discussion board. And I want you to scroll all the way down to the pronouns, okay? Now, you guys needed to submit your initial post that talked about your results from the pronoun quiz and any of the questions that you had. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to come into our pronoun discussion board. I want you to go to 2 of your classmates' posts. So I want, like, let's say I would click on Tatum's and I would see what Tatum's responses were, maybe some of the questions that she had. And you, using the knowledge that you gained from the Schmoop video, see if you can maybe answer one of their questions, okay? Or maybe you look at, maybe the next one you click on is Haley's and you look at Haley's questions. Maybe you're just going to agree and say, you know what, Haley, I have the same issue. I'm not sure if that's correct either or how that's correct, okay? So what I want you to do is to head to 2 of your classmates' posts and either answer their question with the knowledge that you got from the video, or tell them that you agree and you are still confused, because then I will be looking at these discussion boards later on after you guys have had the opportunity to go through and respond to each other, okay? And then hopefully I'll be able to answer any questions that you have regarding pronouns. So I want to give you guys about 10 minutes, okay? Because you don't have to write a whole bunch for these discussion board responses. So 10 minutes, I want you guys to take to the pronoun discussion board and respond to 2 of your classmates. Do you guys have any questions on that? And it's okay if you still feel like you're a little shaky in your pronoun knowledge. Do your best. As I said, I will be responding to them later on, probably tonight, to hopefully clear up any questions that you guys have. Okay. All right. So at 1:51, I'm going to turn my mic on, and then we'll just check in and then go on break. Okay. All right. So I'll turn my mic back on in 10 minutes. my hope is that after watching the Schmoop video that maybe pronouns, the whole process makes a little bit more sense. The biggest thing is when you are looking at your sentences and you are trying to determine what you need to do pronoun-wise with the sentence, you need to figure out, is the pronoun serving as a subject or is it serving as an object? Because that will determine which pronoun you guys use, right? You can always go back to the charts in the Schmoop video, but you have to figure out what the pronoun's purpose is in the sentence, okay? That's going to be the determining factor. That's why I say, it's terrible to have to go through a class where they make you diagram sentences, but diagramming sentences does help you see what role every word in that sentence has to play. So, annoying, yes. Helpful, absolutely. So, whenever you have to, look and try to figure out what role that pronoun is playing. If it's subject, you know which ones you need to choose from. If it's an object, then you know which ones you need to choose from, okay? That video is there and it's available in Learning Plan 1 whenever you guys need to go back to it, all right? Okay. Now, before I get too far into anything, one of the assignments that you guys have that's due tonight is your textual analysis final draft. Okay. Do you guys have any questions regarding our textual analysis? I'm going to head into Blackboard. Because let's just refresh our memories as far as what our textual analysis needs to have on its final draft. I'm going to go into the Assignments tab, Textual Analysis folder, and I'm going to click on our Textual Analysis Assignment Details, just to refresh our brains, okay? You guys have been working on this. You had some excellent starts, right? You need, I know that there were a couple of you that were confused and ended up not using the sources in our sources folder, but you and I have talked about it. We've got that all figured out. So, but you guys are to write a 3 to 4 page essay. Remember, it has to be 3 to 4 pages of writing. So if you're using APA, it does not include your cover page. And it does not include your sources page, okay? It has to be at least 3 to 4 pages of writing in addition to your sources page. So keep that in mind, okay? I want 3 to 4 pages of your writing. Look at 1, 2, or 3 of our sources, and you're basically picking them apart. I mean, think about it, you're analyzing them. I don't know if you guys ever had those science classes where you get to look in the microscopes and you're really like just getting down to the very, very bits and pieces, the molecules, of an item. And that's what you guys are doing. A textual analysis is just getting down to the bits and pieces of the author, the language, the tone, the reliability, the bias. Okay. I know from reading a lot of your discussions that, quite a few of you have looked at the Jaggers article and say, it's a good article, but there's some bias in there. I mean, it's totally his feelings. He has it all written out. So if you were to include that source in your textual analysis essay, that would be something that you would want to mention. Okay. If you are stuck and you feel like you're still not being able to develop it to that full 3 pages of writing, make sure you guys come back to the textual analysis assignment details and look at some of the questions that we're asking. So if you're stumped, try to address some of these questions that maybe you haven't answered yet in your paper, and that will help you build it up a little bit more. Okay? So, final draft due tonight by 11:59. Okay? Any questions on that? All right, I'm going to click away and I'm going to go back into the assignments folder and look at our annotated bibliography. So you have source 3, your final draft of source 3 is also due tonight. If you haven't turned it in already, I know some of you have. Keep in mind that as you guys are finalizing these documents, please make sure you go back to the discussion board, because remember, we did revision groups for these assignments. Go back and look at the feedback from your classmates as you're editing, okay? Remember, you've got feedback from your classmates and you have feedback from me as well. So please try to look at that feedback and, figure out what to use to help you better your final draft, okay? Does anybody have any questions on the annotated bibliography? This one is just annotated bibliography 3. Okay, remember that you need to be adding each entry to your original draft. So obviously your original draft was source 1. That was the only annotation. Once you got to source 2, your draft should have had source 1 and 2. For source 3, you should have sources 1, 2, and 3 on it, okay? Because once we get to source 4, then we will have all 4 sources on a document sheet, okay? So source entry 3, that draft is due tonight by midnight, if you guys have not already submitted it. So do you have any questions regarding annotated bibliography number 3? Or even the format or the setting up of your document? Okay, let's see here. Right. So if by chance maybe you submitted source entry number 2 and what only had source 2 on there, you haven't combined them together, that's okay. Just start getting them combined together. The all important one is for source entry 4. Source entry 4 needs to have all 4 on that document, because I need to see that you can format everything correctly. You remember to alphabetize your sources and all of that. Okay, so nobody do any panicking just yet here, okay? All right, so textual analysis and annotated bibliography, source 3 final draft due by midnight tonight. You also need to finish up your 2 responses to the pronoun discussion board if you didn't get to 2 classmates while we were working on it in class, okay? All right. Well, let me introduce you into your next big thing. Let's go to the assignments folder again. So you guys did some pretty heavy writing with your textual analysis. Our next big thing is a synthesis paper. Okay, so I want to go over our synthesis paper because I want you to get started on it. You don't have to, I'm looking at our timeline here. I don't have that written down. Your first draft of your synthesis paper isn't due until like next week, and I'll get the date for you, but you need to think about it and get started on it now. So let's look at, did I put that in here? Okay, I did. Let's look at the synthesis paper, just the overall details and guidelines, okay? All right, so You did a textual analysis. Now we're going to do a synthesis paper. We're really going to talk about the difference between the two types of paper. Okay. So a synthesis paper, and with this paper, just like with the textual analysis, you are to look at the sources in our source folder. Okay. Our sources folder has those 8 sources that you read through. You do not have to do any additional research. Just use the sources that we have in the sources folder. Okay. So a synthesis paper is where we really pause and take a look at our class questions. Remember, our class questions are over in the sources folder. So let's go to the sources folder. Okay, so we've got our language sources folder. All of those sources are inside of there. But before we click on that, we have our course questions listed right here. So refresh your brain here. How do humans across time, cultures, genders, ages, abilities, and socioeconomic levels differ in how they use language? How does language influence and or reflect the development of one's identity, sense of power, powerlessness, or worldview? What aspect of language do you find underexamined or commonly overlooked by modern society? And that could be like language use in law, it could be politics, gender, news, entertainment, law enforcement, education, basically wherever you want to take that. How have the sources and different perspectives on the topic shaped your opinions about language? Okay, think about that. And what would you say to someone who asked you the most important lessons you have learned about language to this point in your life? Okay, not necessarily specifically in this class, but just this point in your life. Okay, so those were our course questions. What we're going to do is we're going to really look at those course questions as we build this paper. Now, you're speaking in your own voice, but you're making sure that this is a professional academic, paper. So no slang, we don't want anything like that in there. You guys need to use 4 sources. 3 of those at least need to come from the sources folder. You can use all 4 sources. You can get them all from the sources folder. However, if you really feel like you want to go and find another source, you are welcome to, but you are not required to do any additional research. Okay, so you can take all 4 sources from the sources folder, or you just need to take at least 3 sources from the sources folder, and then you can go find one on your own that kind of deals with whatever you're going with. Okay, but you need to use 4 sources. This paper is a 4 to 6 page paper. This is more like a survey or an argument paper. So your textual analysis was just that. It was an analysis. You weren't really arguing for anything. You were basically picking apart the sources. Okay, now you're going to devise a paper that is a survey or an argument in regards to our class topic and our class questions. And I'm going to show you some examples, and we're going to go through some setup together. So you have those 2 options. You can write it as a survey, or you can write it as an argument. If you decide to take it as a survey, your purpose is to state how you think the sources in this course actually answered the course questions. Okay, so think of those 5 questions, think of our 8 sources. Did our 8 sources answer the course questions? Okay, you can look at major issues, opinions, positions, whatever, and just kind of present the major ideas and opinions and positions related to your topic. You need to be objective. You need to be logical. Your job is basically to educate us if you're using this survey format. So you're going to try to avoid really strong opinions. Okay, a survey really is just that informative paper. Now, if you have some really strong opinions on things, then I would suggest you use the argument option for writing this paper. So if you want to write as an argument, then your purpose is to defend a position on the class topic and the questions. And then you're going to use our sources to kind of help back you up. You're going to present a position, a fair-minded, evidence-based, okay? It doesn't mean you don't get to have your opinion. Your job is to persuade us, not to rip apart the other side of the argument, okay? As always, you guys need to format your papers, whether it's MLA or APA. Make sure you have a sources page. Include all those sources in it. And I will remind you once again, let me click into the sources folder. Please remember that all these sources have the citations all set up for you. You just have to copy and paste them. But please make sure you are copying and pasting the correct format. So if you are writing an MLA format, make sure you are using the MLA citation and not the APA citation. It's very obvious to me when I look at your sources page, okay? APA usually has that initial for the first name. So when I look at your works cited page and you have a citation that's set up like this, I know it's set up incorrectly, okay? So citations are already set for you. You don't have to go to citation machines. We got them here. Okay. I want you guys to quote the sources. I want you to paraphrase the sources. I want you to summarize the sources. Here is where your annotated bibliographies are going to come in handy, because you have created summaries for at least 4 of the sources, which means that now you're familiar on how to write summaries for these sources, okay? So utilize those when you write this paper. Utilize some of the critical analysis that you have done. You can add that in here as well. That's why we try to stick to our course topic of language, and we try to stick to the sources, because any of the work that you do can help you as you continue on with these papers, okay? So, please make sure if you quote, paraphrase, or summarize that you use citations. We need those in-text citations, okay? No plagiarism, please. Okay, let me, I have a couple things to show you here. So let's look at this really quickly. So you guys just wrote a textual analysis. Now we're moving on to a synthesis. So with the synthesis, like I said, you have 2 options on how to write it. You can either write it as an informative paper, or you can write it as a persuasive paper. So this is a good job of comparing, this document does a good job comparing the difference between the 2 types of papers, okay? So in analytical writing, we move beyond just our initial reaction of whatever it is we read, okay? We instead look at how it was put together. We look at the ideas, the information. We take a look at the author, and then we just like pick it apart. We nitpick it, okay? But we nitpick it in a critical way, an academic way. The framework we usually use is academic, okay? It's rhetorical. We're considering the context of the text and how it achieves whatever its goal is. That's why we repeatedly ask you guys, what do you think this author is trying to get to? You know, what do you think their main point is, okay? Okay, so we have a really good question here that just popped in. And I'm assuming your classmate is talking about sources. So what do you do if you know something, but you can't remember where you heard it from or where you read it? Okay, this is what you have to do. You have to take to Google and you have to try to find it. If you cannot find the origin of whatever it is you want to use in the paper, you cannot use it. Okay, if it's not a common knowledge thing that everybody knows, you cannot use it. So You would be surprised how many times I have had students that find something to put in a paper and they don't have it written down somewhere, so they can't quite remember where they found it. So they have to take to Google and see if they can find where the information originated from. So that is my only suggestion that I can give to you. Do some Googling, some creative Googling, and see if you can find the origin of the source. If you cannot find the origin, you cannot use it. Okay, we have to be able to cite a source. So thank you for asking that. I probably just dashed some of your hopes there, but okay. So analysis, we're picking it all apart. When we get to a synthesis, it's about actually putting the ideas together and recognizing like a pattern or similarities. Okay, so analytical, pick apart, synthesize, we're bringing together the ideas. Okay, a couple questions came through. I'll address them in just a second. So in a synthesis, we're going to look at all of the sources that we've gone through, and you're going to try to figure out what they have in common. Do they have some common arguments? Do they discuss a topic that you feel really strongly about, that you want to write a persuasive paper? Okay. That's what we're going to do with that synthesis. And I'm going to show you in just a moment, like give you just an idea of how you can do it. I'll give you an example. Okay. So when we want to write that synthesis, you're going to decide on some of those sources and you're going to try to figure out, okay, how do they fit together? Obviously, they're all related to language. Okay, so that's the one thing they have in common. But you're going to want to look at the course questions and try to figure out which questions you want to address. So one of your classmates had asked the question, do we have to answer all of the class questions? No, you don't. You just have an option to choose, maybe a few of the questions, maybe one or two of the questions, or if you want to be ambitious, you definitely can choose all 5, but you do not have to. Okay. In regards to other sources that you want to use, the question is, what if something is common knowledge? Okay. If it's common knowledge and everybody knows it, then you actually don't have to cite it. Okay. So that's one of the nice loopholes if you can't remember the origin of a source. As long as it's common knowledge, you can put it in and no citation is needed. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing that screen and I am going to load up a couple of screens for you. You guys are going to help me devise a plan for a synthesis paper. I'm going to click around. And then once we devise it together, I will be sure to share it in the assignment folder. Okay. I have way too many windows open. That's why I had to close that one. Okay. All right, so click around, share this screen. Okay, you guys should be seeing some Word documents, or at least the Word screen, okay? All right. So this is a document that I will end up sharing with you in the assignment folder. It has the assignment details in it, just so the assignment details are fresh in our brain. But the nice thing about this document is it includes the course questions. So those are all right there for you, okay? So we know our topic, class topic is language. We know we need to write a 4 to 6 paper, okay? 4 to 6 page paper has to be at least 4 pages of writing. And we need to use our sources from the source folder. We need to use the discussion board. You remember how we would take to the discussion board when we would discuss some of these sources? Now is your opportunity to go back and look at some of those discussions. because everybody has different insights. That's why we have each other, okay? So we've got our 5 questions. We know that we want to look at least 3 of our sources, if not just using all 4 sources from the sources folder, okay? So let's just say, okay, we've got our questions here. Okay, so let's just say we're going to break those questions down into topics, okay? So we've got the first question talks about like cultures, socioeconomic, genders, all of that. So it talks about that. The second question talks about language influencing identity. Okay. The third one talks about, I'm moving my screen over so I can see better. Third one talks about maybe things that society has overlooked, okay, in regards to language. Fourth one talks about how those sources have shaped your opinions about language, okay? And then our 5th question is just about what you've learned about language to this point. So let's really look at these first 3, okay? So first, let's do this. All right, so I kind of paraphrased some of the questions here, okay? We've got, according to the questions, in regards to these sources, language's impact on society, languages like causes, creations, language's positive or even negative influences or potential consequences of language. And then our questions kind of refer to language awareness, okay? So here's what I want you guys to do first. We have these general topics from our course questions in regards to language. These are the 8 sources that you guys have read. I want you to help me. I want you to use the chat box and I want you to help me categorize our sources. So we want to figure out which one of these sources actually link to some of these topics in regards to language. And one of the sources may fit in more than one of the topics, okay? So let's look at this. Let's look at the first one. Which of these sources discuss or touch on language's impact on society? So think about that. Give me some numbers in the chat box. Sources that you think discuss language's impact on society. Okay, I like that. And I'm going to type in your numbers and we'll kind of go from there. Does anybody think any more than sources 1, 5, and 7? Ooh, we do have some more coming in here. I'm like dropping things down. Okay, so we see 3 and 4. Okay, we have agreement in the first one. Oh, I see 6 in there as well. Okay, so let's look at this. And these are just your opinions, guys. There's not like really a wrong or right answer. All right, so let's look at this. As far as impact on society, we have what makes a word real. Okay, because in that video, she really does discuss basically where we even come up with language in the first place, or how the way we use language, we create it and then it ends up in the dictionary. So I would say, yeah. So then we've got how talking about the coronavirus, so the actual words we use within the society that we're living in. Yes. Okay. So 4, same type of theory with 4 as far as calling workers essential. And I just realized I'm missing some punctuation in there. That's going to bother me until I fix it. Okay. And then what did we say? 5, ideological barriers to American Sign Language. Definitely there was an impact in that article, wasn't it? In that article, it actually discussed how certain schools don't even recognize American Sign Language as an actual language. Okay, that's a huge impact. Let me see, Mr. Rogers. Okay. All of his creation with Freddish and everything, his impact was mainly on a younger society, right? But a huge impact there. And then the media exaggerates. Absolutely. Okay. So let's go look at the next one. Give me your numbers for languages, causes, or creations. Any of the sources that talked about things that happened because of language or how language was actually created. Which sources should we put in there? Okay. We're saying number 1. Which other sources? Yep. A lot of you are pretty much putting the same sources in here. So I'm just plunking them in as you put them in. Okay. Anybody think we need more than that, or did that cover it? Okay. So again, as far as language creation, absolutely. What makes a word real? The way you see color, how different countries actually have different different words, have created different words for color. Let's see here. 6. Yep, Mr. Rogers created a whole new thing with Freddish. Oh, I skipped 5. American Sign Language is a created language. And then the media exaggerates, shows what happens with the language, right? I mean, that's the actual cause and effect of language. So spot on. Okay, let's look at the third one. What sources do you think link to either the positive or negative influences or even some of the potential consequences of language? Look at our sources there. And remember, it's just your opinion. There's not a right or wrong answer. Okay. You have a classmate that says all of them. What do you guys think? Let's look at these. Everybody's typing in with numbers and saying, and yes. Okay, well, let's do that then. Let's just go ahead. I'm gonna be lazy and go 1 through 8. Okay. Every single one of them really touches on either a positive influence, a negative influence, or it talks about the consequences of the language that we use. And sometimes the consequences are positive and sometimes they're negative. So, all right. And then the last one just talks about like language awareness. So, which of these sources really hit on language awareness? Excuse me. Okay, seeing some come through here. I'll plunk them in as you guys type them in. Okay, some agreement in numbers. Okay. Does anybody want to add to what we have? Okay. So now that we have this, and this is another thing that I'll actually share in the assignments folder. So now we have like these major topics from our class question. Okay. Do you guys remember the graphic organizer that I showed you for textual analysis essay? Do you remember that graphic organizer? It had like the box where it had the hook and then the thesis statement and the intro, and then it had all the little boxes. We're going to take a graphic organizer and we are going to do a quick outline to a synthesis paper. Okay, and we're going to utilize what you guys came up with as far as the sources that link to these class questions. Now you'll notice that I only have 4, I don't have 5, because that last question really is it's about you. It's not really about the sources. That 5th question is about what you have learned at this point. Okay, so that's why there's only really like 4 listed here. So let me do some shifting so you guys don't get dizzy. Okay. Pardon me as I set this up. It's just not working very well for me. Okay, I just want to make sure that that is there for you. Okay. Too many windows. Okay, so let's look at this. All right, so in this document that has like the essay prompts, and where I included our class questions, and it does have just a brief grading rubric so you guys remember what you need on your paper. I have a synthesis organizer, okay? I'm going to delete this really quickly though. I have a synthesis organizer that we're going to work on together. And if you like the synthesis organizer that we do together, you are more than welcome to use it, because even if every single one of you used our mock-up, your papers are still going to be different. Okay? So you guys are all contributing, so you should be able to use this source. All right. So let's do this. Okay. So we know your hook in your introductory paragraph. That's where you're going to list something exciting or something interesting. But we can't really get started too far without a thesis statement, right? Pardon me. So let's look at this document right here. So from our 5 questions, we know that at least 4 talk about these type of language topics, okay? So let's say we want to put them in a thesis statement, okay? So here's what I want you guys to do. I had to open up my chat box. I am going to put these in the chat box, okay? If it will let me. Okay. So you guys now have that all in the chat box. I want you to copy and paste that into a document on your computer somewhere. Or if you want to, you can just really quickly scribble on a piece of notebook paper, because you guys are going to do like a really fast 10-minute thesis statement in groups, okay? So really quickly, just write down language's impact on society, language's causes/creations, language's positive/negative influences or consequences, and benefits of language awareness, okay? Or you can copy and paste it in a paper. I'm going to put you guys into groups. I want you to think of a way that you could put these language topics into a thesis statement. You may need to write a couple of sentences to get all that information in there, but I want to see what you guys can put together for a thesis statement. And it's just a working thesis statement. So even if you need to start a sentence by saying, we think that, what do you think? What do you think? What are you thinking? Try to include as many of these 4 as possible in a thesis statement. Okay, any questions? I'm going to make it super hard on you. I'm going to give you 8 minutes. Okay, see what you guys can come up with in 8 minutes. So when I put you in your groups, I want you to turn your mics on and start seeing if you can put together a thesis statement. Okay, then when we come back, I'm going to want you to share it with me. So let me get you in some groups. It's just going to be the same groups that you were in last time. 8 minutes. See what kind of a thesis statement that you guys can crash course together, okay? Just realized that they got messed up. Okay. All right, 8 minutes, and then we're going to take that and we are going to complete this graphic organizer that you guys can use if you would like to, okay? See you guys in 8 minutes. And it's okay if you don't have it perfect. We're going to talk about it. turn the last little bit of time over. Go ahead and take this time to work. Go ahead and finish up the discussion board. I'm going to repeat a little bit of what I just said because I realized that the recorder didn't unpause when I clicked it. So any of your classmates that need to come back and look at this video, I want to make sure they understand what we just talked about. So I'll do that in a moment. Feel free to sign out and work. Otherwise, I'm going to remain here and answer any questions that you guys have, okay? We will be working on our started graphic organizer on Wednesday. We will finish that up together on Wednesday, and then we will move forward and get that paper started, okay? Okay, I'm going to let you guys work, get to work, finish things up, and I will see you on Wednesday. Okay, so to recap, what we did is we put in that thesis statement and we pulled out 3 of the points that one of the groups came up with. We then take the main points and we plop them into our graphic organizer. See how we have that? Impact on society, transformation or creation of language, and then talking about communities, okay? And then I added in, what have you learned? Okay, because that is one of the most important questions of our class questions, okay? Then what we did was we looked at what you guys decided, what sources matched these topics from the questions. So then we added those sources that you decided on right here with your main points, okay? Now, on Wednesday, we're going to take this a little bit further and we are going to try to pull out summaries and paraphrases, and we're going to really develop this graphic organizer just a little bit more. So don't panic. This isn't an assignment just yet. This is just a preview of how we can get our synthesis paper started, okay? For right now, your main focus is just to get your 2 responses to the pronoun discussion board. And remember, you're just supposed to try to either answer your classmate's question or maybe comment and say, you know, that was something that I was struggling with as well. Make sure you submit your final draft of your source 3, and then make sure you submit your textual analysis final draft. So you kind of have, you got 2 major things right there that I want you to be focusing on. If you guys have any questions, as always, please make sure to email me, okay? Otherwise, you can save any questions that you have for Wednesday, and we will go from there, okay? So get to work, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. One more thing. I just realized that I didn't remind you guys that annotated bibliography source 4, that draft, your first draft of source 4, needs to be submitted to the annotated bibliography source 4 revision group discussion board before class on Wednesday. Okay, so make sure you have a draft to share. Doesn't matter if it's not complete, doesn't matter if it's not perfect, but we do want a draft there so that you guys can get feedback from each other and that you can provide feedback for each other. Okay, so that should be all the details. So beyond that, get to work and let me know if you guys have any questions, okay?